Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. We just want to start by apologizing for canceling our main event that we were supposed to have on the 5th of May due to a number of inconveniences. But we're here to have a team meeting with the Canadian leadership and to pave a way forward, to discuss our fundraising and to discuss our programs and to discuss how we are going to start our operations in Canada. So I just want to introduce Lila. She's our executive director and she'll be running Canada for us, and as well as other team members who are here. So I just want to start by making an introduction about what our vision is all about. So our vision basically is about empowering the African community through education leadership development, which we do primarily by availing education funds to the disadvantaged and marginalized communities. Our selection criteria is more focused on people who are disadvantaged, who are orphans, and we try and put 60% of our investment into girls' education through our Educate the Girl Child campaign. So I think one of the most important things that we need you to understand is the distinction that is there between the ACFE group and ACFE Canada. So ACFE Canada is not exactly a branch of ACFE group, but it is a member of ACFE group. So we have a programs office in Zimbabwe which is more primarily focused on delivering programs for the ACFE group, and a national office in South Africa which is more about the programs that have to do with South Africa. So ACFE Canada is going to work in those countries as well, in South Africa and in Zimbabwe, and it will be running its own separate programs, but it will run these programs in partnership with the ACFE group, since it's a member of the ACFE group. That's how we're going to work with even the ACFE USA that we are currently setting up. That's how we are going to work with Switzerland and in London. So mostly I just wanted to make that clarification so that there is no confusion on whether ACFE Canada is a conduit or it's just a branch that raises money for ACFE group. It's actually its own organization operating independently, and which is set up in Canada to fulfill its mission and vision. So every organization that is set up by the ACFE group, it becomes a member and a part of ACFE group. So they get all the support from the group. They use our brand. They use everything that comes from the group. So we try. It's a strategy that we have to make sure that we ensure global presence for ACFE Canada, for ACFE group. So we're actually moving around the world as well, starting new ACFE organizations and having the local people, giving the local people the opportunity to run it. So we are going to take an approach to young leadership, giving young people an opportunity to take leadership positions. So I think this is an opportunity for everyone who is a student in college, who are young professionals, to actually come on board. So that's what I can just say as an introduction. I think Lila can say something.
Hello everybody. For the first introduction, I'd like to just say that I'm very, very privileged and honored to be working with Stanley. He's an incredible leader and I'm just happy that he's taken me under his wing. We hope to achieve so much with ACFE Canada, and like Stanley said, it's its own organization. It's not just a branch, but we hope to achieve our own goals as an organization under ACFE Group's wing. Last summer I was able to travel to Rwanda, where I worked in an office there for another organization, and I was able to witness the true resilience and strength of the African community. And so through that I was truly inspired to do something with the privilege that I had, having grown up in North America and Canada. And so when Stanley approached me, I knew that with that experience and the opportunities and privileges I have, I would be able to bring something to this organization. And so that experience definitely shaped how I view the African community. I feel like a lot of us in North America don't have a true image, like an accurate image of the African community. We have our own perceptions that have been ingrained within us at a very young age, and so having been able to travel to Rwanda, to Uganda, to see that what we believed to be was not true was very eye-opening for me. And so with Stanley and with our team, core leadership people here, we hope to do so much. The inability to access education is huge within a lot of disadvantaged communities in Africa, and we want to change that. We don't want inability to access education to be the reason why a girl or boy can't grow up to become a leader, and we want to provide that to people, and we want to do everything we can with the resources we have available in Canada to reach as many people as we can and to help as many people as we can. And so we're part of something so much bigger than ourselves, and so it's definitely a true honor and opportunity to be able to do that, to help people. And so this is us reaching out to Northern Americans, and we want to let you know that you have the potential to help millions of people in need. So we need to do that together. We need to step in and do whatever we can to make sure everyone's voice gets heard.
Okay, so I think, so we are ready to take your questions. So we just want to let our audience know that we are having a press conference from Buffalo in New York. It's just close to the US-Canadian border. If you have any questions, please just post them there on our live video, and somebody will be able to ask those questions on your behalf. So
we can take some questions now, whoever wants to start.
All right, what inspired you to start this organization?
Okay, so what inspired me to start the organization is it's a combination of three things, as I understand it. Firstly, the fact that I was born in a semi-rural community. Initially I thought I was born poor, but with the passage of time and being involved in experiences in the African community, I get to realize that that was not really poverty, that was lack and shortage, because the people that I meet today seem to be more poor than I was. So that kind of background of being born in a semi-rural community, and at the end of the day, I received an educational scholarship, which kind of became a turnaround of opportunity for my life. I feel like if I go back in the community and reach out to those who are still in the shadows, who are still like what I was before I got an education opportunity that changed my life, it's something that is really a developmental initiative for the African community and for the people at large. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be that I was born in a family of girls. It's just one boy in a family of girls. And I feel that my exposure to how girls are raised in an African community, the challenges that they meet and who they become and the support systems that are available for them is what really defines and determines how far they can go. And so I really feel that there's more that has to be done in terms of having to educate the girl child and giving educational opportunity to disadvantaged children. So that would be a second thing that I think became part of my passion. But also when I was at school, at college, I got involved in, in student leadership activities, which gave me an opportunity to understand the problems that young people face in their everyday life. And I think that maybe a combination of these things became part of what created a passion in me. So I think that's exactly how I would define my involvement in this work.
Great, thank you. So thank you for that. With that image, with the vision established, can you talk about the monthly activities that students can expect from ACFE Canada down the line?
So in terms of monthly activities, I think maybe if I'm going to talk about in terms of how the ACFE Canada is set up, I would say that volunteerism promotion is one of the things that are active within our space. So we try to create opportunities for people to get involved as volunteers. And I think that maybe young people have more opportunities to get involved. Probably, I wouldn't say weekly, I would say every day in our organization if they are involved as volunteers. There are a lot of things that people would come and do depending on the skills that you have, but we are at a stage that we are looking for ideas. And those ideas, we don't want them to come from the broader picture of the world. We want them to come from simple young people, even those who come from disadvantaged communities. So I think volunteering is the biggest opportunity we have available. You want to come and try out your skills in fundraising, your skills in programs, your skills in strategy and policy. So I think one of the things that we also try and do is that we want to give young people an opportunity to learn from us. So if they would engage with us through our offices, we want to provide some mentorship, and we want to try and make them say out their voice.
Perfect, thank you.
I'd like to know how the relationship develops between Zimbabwe and Canada.
So the relationship is based on what we call service level agreements. So what we're going to do with the ACFE Canada is that we're going to have service level agreements that define what role does ACFE Group play in our partnership and what role does ACFE Canada plays in our partnership. So basically I would say we are going to play the role of providing support to ACFE Canada in terms of how they can have a structure that allows them to run their programs, in terms of how they can effectively work and connect to our vision. We are going to provide some grooming. We are going to provide opportunities and a chance for the leadership in Canada to grow, and maybe we are going to provide perspective, because I think we stay closer to the poverty that we're trying to deal with more than our Canadian counterparts, and we think that their involvement is strategic in terms of resources and skills, and also maybe diversifying our programs. But also when we speak about the ACFE Group, we believe that we have the experience, we have a resource base in terms of our networks and connectivity, and we have a brand that is actually ready to give Canada an opportunity to get involved in the African community. Mm-hmm. So we are trying also to say to the Canadians, it's an opportunity for them to seek for impactful involvement in Africa in terms of partnership, in terms of maybe even business. So we have a branch or an arm of our organization which is called the Group Investments and Sustainability, which gives Canadian corporates an opportunity to actually come and invest in Africa through that, as long as some returns are brought back to our non-profit activities.
Thank you.
So what are some of your greatest accomplishments from this last year?
So our greatest accomplishments would have been more on the educational direction or on our education programs. But we think that we have achieved more on our leadership program. So I can give you an example. On our educational program, we'll only be able to run a pilot program, which I think it did a lot in terms of how it opened up opportunities for us to understand what we want to do and how, what could be better and best for our community. But then we have a leadership program which we did in partnership with other organizations. So we partnered with an American organization called the Big Family, and we were able to, their work is that they send computers to Zimbabwe, and those computers are distributed in the schools. So for the past 4 years or 3 years since 2014, they were able to send about 387 computers as of the statistics that I know by today. And they were able to impact on more than 4,000 students, and they worked with about 221 schools. And that was our involvement. So we worked together, but we worked with them at a very low scale because we didn't have the proper infrastructure to get involved, but we were there in managing and participating in that program, and we were able to actually benefit the students through our leadership program. So we actually have like 15 students right now who are enrolled on our leadership program, and I think that's going on really well.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so for students looking to fine-tune their communication and diplomatic communication skills, would you happen to have any book recommendations for them?
Well, I would say diplomatic communications, if I got you right.
Yes.
I think being able to achieve something in that space is a matter of diversity. What comes into your mind and how you can effectively deal with that. So diversity in the sense of you want to understand psychology and sociology and philosophy, but at the same time you want to understand the mathematics of life. So it's just about how you get to be strategically positioned within your own thinking. So it's about exposure. So reading a book is a certain kind of exposure which we can give as an example. But I think it's about the experiences. So if I can give an example of Lila coming in as a young leader and leading the Canadian organization, that kind of experience that she's getting in the next 3 years or 4 years, depending on how effectively she's involved, she's more of a global leader who would be hired by another company to do the same work as an executive director or CEO. So that's how I can give that example. So I think maybe my recommendation would be to read more of books that have to do with politics. And politics is just as good as business. It's just about how to get the assertiveness of getting things done, but in a more strategic way. So that's my take on that.
Thank you so much.
Once the internet is not working.
I'm aware.
Okay, so we have another question.
Sorry. Do you need to fix something?
No, okay.
Okay. Lila, would you, what do you think your educators or people that are going to be a part of this organization that are helping create these programs or deliver these programs, if you're going to go places and deliver them, what are the type of skills that you think they would need? You know, what type of people would you want to be a part of the organization, or even what type of training do you think would be helpful for them?
Well, I feel like that's a two-parter. For the first part, what types of skills? We need people who, can take on a leadership role and are as enthusiastic and passionate about the mission and the vision as we are. Of course, there exists so many different personality traits out there, and we definitely want to exemplify those personality traits, and every personality and character is valuable. And so I think the more diversity that we have, the better. And so I would say people who are just enthusiastic and are responsible and can be kept accountable, and who show up on time, and who do what they're told and can bring creative ideas. And we want innovators, and everyone has a creative spirit. I know that, learning about the different types of people that exist, everyone has something valuable, as I said earlier, to bring to the organization. And so we're excited for that. We're excited for all the different minds that we are going to collaborate together to implement programs and to birth a nation of just innovators who are willing to empower communities in Africa. And so that's very exciting and something to look forward to. And I believe the second part of your question was what?
It's just in terms of training, if you wanted to make sure that people were, had specific skill sets or knew certain types of things to deliver these programs or to be leaders in the community, what would that look like for you?
Well, I know Stanley with this organization has created an atmosphere where everyone can come and be part of something big. And of course, responsibility is huge in that. It's like, we're not just going to pick people off the streets and be like, hey, you're going to take care of our budget. No, it's more so you should be equipped with specific skills to the role. So if we need someone to deal with IT, we want someone with a background in IT. So that would be specific skills pertaining to that field. But then we have ladies in our international programs team, we're all on the same team, but with international development experience, and that's very valuable to us because they know how those structures work and know what needs to happen in order for certain things to function properly. A training program, maybe down the road we can come up with a training program that volunteers and leadership members can partake in in order to be fully equipped to handle specific roles, as I said earlier. I hope that answers your question.
Cool. Yeah. Cool.
Any other questions?
Oh, I have one. What are your future hopes for the African communities which you support?
Future hopes for ACFE Canada, or just for the...
Both for your organization and also for the individuals who you're supporting in Africa as well. What are your future hopes for them?
I think we can both answer that.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, did you want to start? Or?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, our future hopes would be more linked to self-sufficiency, because we're trying to address poverty here, and the best way to address poverty is to equip people with the tools and resources that make them self-sufficient. So if I'm to give an example here, is that if we take a student or young children, place them into an educational program, and they get the academic background that is required for them to have the right competitiveness in terms of professional skills. Our leadership program addresses a number of things. So it has to do with unlocking their current potential and abilities and unveiling, possibilities unto them. So they would go through training for entrepreneurship and coaching and mentoring, which would assist them to then come out of college or out of school not just as workers or people who are going to join the employment grid. So they are going to come out as people who are innovators, who are creative, who are going to start businesses. And those businesses, what we intend to do is to have those businesses impact on their communities, on the globe, and on their families. So we are saying we are trying to get out of poverty here in a sustainable way. So if somebody is at school and gets that entrepreneurship training, one thing they come out of or holding out of that leadership program is an action plan or a business proposal that is going to help them in starting a business in whatever scale, or whether in the community or wherever. So we assist them, give them access to business resources. How do they register a company? How do they do this? And we can give them a seed funding, maybe $5,000 or $10,000. They grow their business. When their business is successful, they can plow back that money into the organization. And in the future, if that cycle continues, then we're actually dealing with poverty, because that company they have started can employ 10 or more people, and those 10 or more people will still do more. And then they can still come back as an alumni to the organization and say, I want to pick one kid and send to school as well because you've done this good for me. So that's the circle of sustainability we're trying to create, and that's what we intend to see at the end of day. Yeah.
Good. And I would like to add to that. I mean, he definitely explained kind of the complex process that goes to tackling an issue like poverty. I mean, a lot of people think in their heads like, oh, to tackle poverty, I can just use this key and, unlock the problem and do everything I can to... It's just such a complex process. And so we're using the vehicle of education and all these educational programs and this reform in order to tackle that huge issue. It's definitely hard. It's not an easy thing to do, and he's definitely doing all he can in his power to come up with more creative ideas and ways in order to do that successfully. And so, that's what I wanted to add. Any other questions?
So I was just wondering, would there be any international opportunities for young leaders to interact with different national chapters down the road, like vis-a-vis like international conferences, or do you, what sort of ideas do you have to kind of create this dialogue, not just within the organization, but within the different national chapters?
That's definitely a vision. What you're asking is, it's something that we could look towards working on. I mean, right now we're in the transitional phase, recruiting leaders to our team and visioning together and dreaming together what we want it to look like, and setting in place plans, effective plans that will allow us to better prepare ourselves to implement the programs. So I'd say in terms of international opportunities for people to go abroad and do, I think that is possible, and that's something that we can plan for and we can strategize towards, because if there's anything that will allow people to see what we're doing, like see the work on the ground, it's traveling abroad and seeing it. I know myself with traveling, when I go to a country myself, and you know, it's easy to study something. You study and you read and you talk to people about it. That's one thing that you can do to learn about something. But when you go to the country itself and you're on the ground and you're talking to people who are actually facing these issues, and that's the reality day to day, that's very, very integral to the process of wanting to help. And you know, so international conferences, training programs, volunteer programs, like we're definitely going to work towards doing that, and it's definitely a big dream of ours. We want to get the whole community involved in, like, through the process of globalization. It is possible. And we have Stanley here from Zimbabwe, so he's in the States, he's in Buffalo, New York. Like, this whole process of globalization allowed for him to come here, and so we definitely will at some point be sending people abroad and creating that global community and that a global support system, for sure. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that, you know, so basically one of the things that we're thinking about right now is creating a platform where students can actually come to Africa as volunteers. Of course, we'll do that at our own expense, but we won't be able to give them a salary, but we can give them, you know, we can cover the costs that are related to them coming to Africa. So we are looking into students coming into Africa and then volunteering within the African community, and after that they are gaining new skills, and they are also bringing new skills in the African community. So we'll get into partnerships with the universities and do some exchange programs, but I think that brings into perspective one of the programs that we think to do with ACFE Canada is to have to take the campus approach, where we will set up our organizations presence in campuses so that we can have more involvement of students. I think we'll discuss about that, but you know, that's pretty much how we can create opportunities for involvement within the African community.
Yeah, definitely. By expanding the volunteer community, we're able to then make available conferences and training programs and things of that sort. So once we do that, once we hit up the campuses and the community houses and the streets, even like with our flyers and our promotional items, and teaching people about what we do and why the why and the what behind the organization, I think once we get people on board with what we're doing, they'll feel more and more motivated to help us, and then that'll create that community, and then we can start planning towards making these things happen, for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.